Hey, I hope everyone is doing well. Just want to introduce myself. My name is Jeremiah Reed. I'm the author and owner of Mental Wealth. And May is Mental Health Month. And a lot of people don't really understand the power that comes with a overall healthy mind. I know through my financial coaching, I talk about having a healthy mindset, and that really starts with taking care of your overall mental health. And so, to kick off this mental health month, I just wanted to launch something brand new called Mentally Fit. And to kick that off, I wanted to bring two people that a lot of people might not know how much they actually deal with mental health, but that's why they're going to explain today not only some tricks and things like that for you to improve your mental health, but then also too just how to stay healthy overall during this time. I know COVID-19 is kind of slowing up a little bit. You might still have some questions or reserves. You've been in the house a long time. You might be tired of dealing with kids or being around adults, maybe your spouse, whatever the case might be. A lot of things add stress to your life. But hopefully, here with Mentally Fit, we're going to just kind of go through some things and look at some ways to improve life. So, Devin and Jasmine, kind of introduce yourself and tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
Hi, I'm Jasmine. I'm a registered nurse and I work in a behavioral health setting and a med surg setting. But today I'll more so talk about my experiences within the behavioral health setting.
Yeah, my name is Devin Graves. Been a registered nurse for about 4 years now. Uh, Work specifically with the mental health population. I'm employed at Community North Hospital at the Behavioral Health Pavilion, but actually I just got a new job, and so I'll be working over at Community East uh, at the Neurodiagnostic Institute, which is like the new LaRue Carter or the state hospital for mental health patients, for those who don't know. So, and we're actually both currently pursuing our masters at this time
Oh,
to
yeah.
become psychiatric mental health nurse practitioners as well. So we got a lot of experience and knowledge and skin in the game with stuff. So hope we can answer a lot of your questions.
Yep. So if you don't know what any of that meant, just know they the experts, all right? We're going to consider them the experts today when it comes to mental health. Super proud of both of them and all their accomplishments. But just to dig right in, kind of tell me how has working in the health field made you more aware of the importance of mental health?
So as I already mentioned, I work in a behavioral health setting, and like working in a behavioral health setting, I've been exposed to a very diverse population. And when I provide treatment to patients, I realize I've provided treatment to patients from literally all walks of life, from even the youth, even to geriatric. And when most people think of mental health, they're usually thinking of, psychosis, psychotic breakdown, and stuff like that. But mental health is beyond just that. It's anxiety, it's depression, it's addiction, it's trauma, PTSD, like postpartum depression, bipolar mania. There's so many different type of mental illnesses that are actually out, but a lot of people only attribute it to breakdowns as real mental illness. However, the smallest thing, even anxiety, is just as important as treating as it would be to treat someone, with schizophrenia. So in my work experience, I've realized that mental illness does not discriminate. There's not a predominant population that's affected, because literally anyone can be affected at any given time. I've taken care of homeless patients. I've taken care of the working class, successful CEOs. And if you don't take care of your mental illness and your mental health, it could be you. Now, some mental illnesses, however, are uncontrollable, but there are some things that we can control, and we'll dig deeper into that later on. But ultimately, I realized mental health affects the way we think, the way we feel, and the way we act in response to different trauma and situations and stressors in our lives.
Cool. Thank you, Jasmine. So for those who are tuning in, if you're not taking notes, please take some notes. She just dropped a lot of good nuggets there early on. And I want to make sure that everyone truly understands what mental health is. And I got another question just to follow up with that one. What kind of like shocking story or discovery have you found while working with mental health issues that you would like to share, and kind of like what you learned from it?
Yeah, so I'll answer this question. I think the biggest discovery that I experienced is just that the mental health and psychiatric population of patients is so overlooked and underserved, and there's just a lot of people out there that really need help. Like Jasmine had said earlier, mental health is all around us and it's in many different shapes and forms. And there's a lot of people out there that need help that don't go get it for numerous reasons. One of the biggest reasons, I believe, is the negative stigma that's associated and attached with mental health. There's the people that believe like mental health just like isn't real, or in their culture or how they grew up, they just suppress it or ignore it. Um, you have people who have mental health problems and just don't want to seek help because they don't know where to get help. They don't want to be judged by their family, friends, and loved ones. The list just goes on and on. So I think that's the most shocking discovery that I discovered, is just that there's so many people out there that have mental health complications and that need help, that I wish could get access to getting help. And there's some barriers in the way that they're preventing them from getting the help they truly need.
I would like to add to that also. Support is really a big factor when it comes to mental health recovery. A lot of patients, come in and their road to recovery, kind of sometimes tank before they even get discharged. Because when we're creating safety plans for them, they can't identify, a family, a friend, a neighbor, or someone, that they can lean on and connect with, in a time of crisis for them to use as their emergency line. And even then, sometimes people, develop mental, problems because they have lack of support. So they feel like they have to, take on everything themselves. So my advice to everyone is here: be of support to someone else and allow someone else, to be of support to you, because, no one can take on everything alone.
Cool. You said something that one, I want to educate myself on, and maybe some of the other people that's listening. Kind of dive deeper into a safety plan. What is that?
So it just depends on what your mental illness is. A lot of patients, for instance, say someone come in here with addiction, say they get discharged home, and before they get discharged, we have to create a safety plan. That safety plan basically just says, when you are, feeling stressed, who is someone you can call? If, just different life events, if they were to happen, what would you do to prevent yourself from relapsing? What would you do, to help lift your mood? Just basically helping the patient identify what coping skills are. Coping skills are just positive, even self-care activities, that help promote your health. So essentially a safety plan is just a plan that will help you, stay on a positive recovery.
And just to
How would you?
piggyback off of that too, so discharge planning, if people have mental health complications to the point where it requires them to have inpatient treatment, discharge and safety planning is something that should happen the minute they hit the door. And factors such as a place to live, where you're going to go when you leave here. Do you have a family member or some sort of support system to lead on? Are you on any medications? Are we going to send you home with, on the right medication, with a certain quantity of medication? Usually every single patient that leaves the hospital has some sort of follow-up appointments or like therapy sessions that they have to attend that are usually like a week apart. So all of that just kind of works together to create a big plan in order to put someone on the right track, so they are in the least position possible to go down a crisis, if that makes any sense.
Nah, that make a lot of sense. I really like that. Hopefully everyone sunk that in. Again, if you don't have a safety plan, I think you should have one. I think after listening to them, I'm going to create a safety plan for myself. Similar to what they said, especially when it comes to like Black people per se, we try to be so tough and hold things in and just take the bumps of life and keep moving forward. But in reality, we all need somebody. It's okay to de-stress. It's okay to lean on somebody. It's okay to ask for support. And I want to make sure that those who are tuned in today, that you really think about, who do you have in your corner that you can call on in the moment of need, when you're feeling depressed, stressed, having anxiety, or whatever it is. But my prayer is you have somebody. So thanks for bringing that up.
Hey, and Jeremy, just to follow up on that, a really good point is, with a lot of patients that I've personally taken care of and worked with, there's this X factor where, it's very easy to talk about what you will do or what should happen in order to go down, the right path to recovery. And it's another to, put that education and knowledge into practice. Because, the road to recovery knowing the steps that are necessary in order to recover isn't the hard part. It's actually, taking the action and implementing it. Because there's a lot of people that can sit up on here and tell you, oh yeah, in order to get better, I just need to do X, Y, and Z. But when it actually comes time to do X, Y, and Z, that's when it gets hard, and they relapse or go into a crisis, and they get kind of stuck in the same cycle.
Yeah. When you say that, I think of one word: discipline. When you study any person of great success, anybody who overcame anything major, it always takes discipline. So self-discipline is huge. I'm a big proponent of it. I'm really big on that with my coaching when it comes to finances. And as you can see, it also helps you out when it comes to mental health. So make sure you tune in, think about yourself, and practice what you preach. I got another question. So we've been dropping some jewels, but what's one thing you would like contribute to having a better mental health?
I wear a lot of hats, so I definitely understand how important it is to actually promote your own mental health. So the thing that really, really, really worked for me is self-care. I work 2 jobs. Of course, ours, I told you all already, I work behavioral health and I work med surg. I also teach at a dance studio. I'm a mom now. I'm a wife, a friend, a sister, friend, and everything else in between, on top of completing grad school full time. So a lot of times I get overwhelmed, or I just feel like I don't have enough time, to divide myself between every aspect of life. But when I spend time for myself, I can actually prioritize what's really important to me. And that's a part of my self-care um, journey. I literally journal, I make to-do lists. I create monthly planners to figure out who I can engage what with during which month. I just try to make time for all the different things that's important in my life. And a lot of people think that self-care is girly activities, but honestly, self-care is something that any and everybody can engage in. For the most part, self-care definitely promotes our mental health. And I recommend implementing it, because if you be intentional with it, you start to have a better, increased mood. And right now, almost everyone has experienced like an increase in stress, anxiety, frustration, and sadness with everything going on. But those are all normal reactions. We can't really control everything that's going on right now, but we can control how we respond, and how we react to everything. And essentially, if you spend time intentionally doing activities with yourself, or even sometimes self-care can even be things you do with your partner in a relationship or even friendships. But if you implement those activities, it can kind of help you manage your anxiety during these times. Like, essentially, self-care just helps you feel mentally, physically, and emotionally well. And a lot of people don't realize that everyday activities sometimes can be self-care, like prioritizing sleep. A lot of people, don't mix themselves go to bed at, 10 o'clock or whatever to get an 8 hours rest. Sometimes that means put your phone down, turn it off if you got to, and get off of social media by 9 or 10 o'clock so you can spend, time with your family, have undivided time with them, as well as have, intentional conversations and not just be distracted. Because if you have a list of laundry list of things you got to do during the day, and by the end of the day you're exhausted, you're not really giving, yourself your full undivided attention, or either that person that you're, engaged with. It's really important just to get adequate rest. Also, physical activities that help as well. Like, you can do in-home workouts because everything is closed right now, but even going on walks a day. We've personally been going on walks for about 30 minutes a day or even more every day, and that's definitely helped. Sometimes, eating your favorite foods. I'm not saying you have to eat completely healthy all the time, but eating healthy definitely does help. But sometimes if you have to eat a Debbie cake to make you happy, that's what you got to do, because I do it all the time. But staying connected with family and friends is definitely something I recommend. Talking about your feelings. A lot of people feel like they can't vent to a lot of people because a lot of people have burdens with themselves. But if you talk about your feelings, you just may never know how someone else may experience that same thing, or they may have experienced that same thing. Reading, that works a lot for me. I love reading, journaling, and ultimately just reflecting and counting the things I'm really grateful for and that I have. And doing all of that just kind of helps me be intentional about creating a routine with implementing it daily and just making sure I have a structure so that way I don't overwhelm myself. I know how much time I have to myself. And I know how much time I can commit to other people.
Cool. I really love that. I asked for one thing, she gave like 20. So I hope y'all paid attention. Whether it was
I'll just give
reading.
you examples.
Hey, let me follow up with that real quick
No,
too.
I'm messing with you. We love it. We love it. What you got to say, Graves?
Just to like piggyback off of that, I would just say to, constantly be self-aware and audit yourself. I don't know if other people do this. It's sort of my habit or tendency to take, maybe 20, 30 minutes out of my day every day and just like sit, think, and reflect. And sometimes, we just all get so in the routine of life, going to work or coming back and taking care of our kids and having all these responsibilities that, sometimes you don't even take time to step back and assess yourself and, say, hey, like, man, I'm a little more snippy today, or I'm angry, or I'm just not feeling like myself. And, just personally speaking, I guess for the both of us coming to you guys as caregivers and healthcare workers, we go out into the world and we give every single day. And, you can't pour from an empty cup. And, when we go into the workplace or out in the real world and, try to help people, if we aren't even right within ourselves, we are doing the people we take care of a big disservice. And, we're not the best version of ourselves. So just to kind of sum that all up, just to constantly be self-aware and audit yourself and constantly adapt and adjust to try to get yourself to this, place of balance.
Cool. Thank you so much. I know I've been hogging all the questions, but feel free if you guys have any questions for these two or even myself, feel free to put them in the chat and I'll read them. I won't say your name if you want to be anonymous, but just go ahead and drop those in the chat and I'll make sure I ask that question. Or you can unmute and ask it yourself. But I do have another question. So I heard how Jasmine copes with kind of everything. What about you, Graves? I know as men, we're more silent when it comes to this issue. So how do you cope with mental health?
Yeah, so I can get into all my specific things. I guess just a more of a general answer to that first is just, everybody needs to have their own set of coping skills / self-care, and it has to work for you. And it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks or how anybody else feels, it just has to work for you. And that could be, taking a walk or getting a pedicure, so just to dive into your specific question for me, for those who truly know us, we love to travel. I would book a vacation in a heartbeat. With being a nurse and having the schedules where we work 12-hour shifts, there's weeks where I have like 3 or 4 days off in a row. And a lot of times if we have the money, like I'll book us a flight and we'll go on vacation for, 3, 4 days using no PTO, come back, and get right back to it. But yeah, traveling, just sitting in the house and like in a tranquil environment and doing nothing. So working in the psychiatric setting, there are times it's very much either or. It's either like super calm or it can be like complete and utter chaos. And there are days where it's complete and utter chaos where I'm like, hollering or yelling at patients or, talking to people on the phone, feeling like a secretary. There's days my wife, I've come home, my wife is like, you ain't said nothing all evening. It's just like, man, I just feel like I talked for 12 straight hours today. Like, I just want to like sit in silence and do nothing, and so that's just my way to cope. So I'd say my top two are like traveling and just being in a very tranquil environment. Oh, and 3, more of just a general thing. I like to leave work at work. I used to be in this place where, because I would work back to backs, like I would work a 12-hour shift today and then be right back at it tomorrow. And sometimes I would like bring work problems home with me and just be like, oh, I've got to, by the time I get home at 7:30, I only have enough time to, use the restroom, bathe, eat, and go to sleep. And before I got to do it all over again. And bringing those problems from work home, it's bad for my own mental health. It's not fair to my, wife and kid and my family. So I just got really good at leaving, work at work, and just kind of separating work from, the other parts of my life. And even though I truly do understand all the hardships and hurdles that I may have to deal with at work, it's definitely helped me appropriately cope and live a better work-life balance and better my overall mental health.
Great. So we had a question that popped in. It says, what ways do you recommend people go about finding therapists? And like, can you connect them if you have any personal connections?
So I personally don't have any connection. I do know friends that are psychiatrists, but you know can't make recommendations based off of that. When it comes to finding therapists, it depends on what your mental issue is. There's therapists, that's supposed to specialize in addictions. There's therapists that specializes, in just different areas of mental health. So I would recommend first by taking like a mental health screen. There are a lot of screens online. That doesn't mean go and say, okay, I think I got, psycho something. Don't go self-diagnosing yourself because of the screen. But you can take the screen just to kind of learn about the different conditions. And depend on what you are suffering from, then that's the treatment that you can go about getting treatment based on what you're suffering from. So different people specialize in different things. Now there are some therapists that do overlapping experiences, but essentially I would talk to your primary care physician, ask them for a referral based on what you kind of learned about yourself and the condition that you think you're experiencing, and they can help you, make that referral and connect you with the therapist. And surprisingly, a lot of insurances right now, or I think they're actually required by law now, that they have to cover mental health visits with insurance.
Gotcha. And this is a great question, considering everything with COVID-19 and pretty much businesses allowing people to work from home. We have a question that said, what advice would you give someone who can't leave work at work due to the nature of their job? That was part one. And then part two of the question says, how would you suggest they find balance when working from home if they need to be available all day?
See, the first part of that question is hard for me to answer because it's not like specific. Because like I feel like if you have problems at work, depending on what the problem is, like we're all adults, and I feel like whenever your problem is, the first solution should always be like, hey, talk to someone about it. I don't know if it's a specific person or if it's a scenario or your work environment. So that's why I'm saying it's really hard for me to kind of answer that. But in terms of suggesting how you would balance when you're working from home and need to be available all day,
I would say back to what we mentioned earlier, just being intentional about scheduling time for yourself. You can already be overwhelmed that you have to stay in the same spot all day long to work. And then the fact that you can't leave work even after your work hours because of the nature of your job, it will be really important for you to figure out how you can spend time for yourself. I mean, it may seem like it's, so tedious to continue to do that same thing every day, but eventually it will help, restore your energy on top of, promoting your own mental health. I also think that a lot of times we get so upset with everyday behaviors, and especially with everything that's going on right now. If you just take the small moments when you get frustrated at work, just think about the smallest things that you're grateful for. That'll kind of just shift your focus a little bit, and even just reminding yourself you're thankful for your job, because honestly, a lot of people, aren't working. Some people are getting unemployment. Some people aren't getting unemployment. So it's very fortunate, that you do have this work. I'm sorry you have the same routine every day. I mean, you can't escape that, but I do recommend you implement something that will help you, look forward to the next day. So every day, implement a routine that you can look forward to daily, so that way you don't feel like it's just a boring process for you.
Can I chime in for a second from somebody who works from home?
Yeah, go ahead, Brandy.
You know what? You do have some control over your schedule. I know it feels like you have to always be on call, but you don't. Like, set a calendar hold as if you have a meeting at some point in your day, and just block it off as if you have a real meeting, so people will learn to respect that time. Even working from home and needing to be online, people will only go as far as you allow them to. So even if it's only 30 minutes, to make sure that you have a lunch, or 30 minutes to make sure that you just have some downtime. Literally block that time off on your calendar so no one else can work over it.
That's great advice.
Thanks, Brandy. You always drop in with the wisdom, for sure. Jazz says something that I particularly do a lot, and when I'm coaching people financially, I also have them do it, and that's to create a gratitude journal. You will be amazed on how being thankful and thinking about that kind of transcends your life and helps you de-stress. Because for every emotion that causes you to stress, you can get a positive thought in your mind to help you think about what you're truly thankful for. So here goes a clear example. I remember we got a new house or whatever, things wasn't going as planned, and I was very frustrated with that process. The people we bought the house from, it was just a lot. But then I started to shift my mindset and I said, hey, I'm thankful to have a house. I'm thankful to do this. And by constantly telling myself that and sowing those seeds into my mind, it removed not only the stress, but also the anger. So if you do not journal at all, that's fine, but at least try to get you a gratitude journal and write down 3 things you're thankful for a day. It'll really do a lot for you.
Or even make affirmation cards or some sticky notes that you can put on mirrors around your house or your bathroom. I forgot to include that as my self-care thing, but every morning I have these affirmations that I recite to myself because they're in my bathroom, mirror, and I affirm them to myself to remind myself I'm worthy, I'm powerful, and all of the things I'm deserving of, I manifest it. And it just helps you shift your perspective and help you begin your day, with positive energy.
Cool. Now, you two are married, and I know there's no such thing as a perfect marriage or a perfect relationship. Kind of talk about how can you two as a couple support each other in having good mental health?
We are very open. We have a very open line of communication, and it's almost always me want to have in-depth conversations, but I feel like I like to address things in depth early on before it gets too late, and then we're clouded by emotion. So, I mean, if you're concerned about a current situation, address the situation right when you feel it. I'm not one of those type of people where I have to wait until I really learn how I feel to discuss it. I talk to you about it now, and then if my feelings change, I'll talk to you about it even when my feelings change, and then we can talk about how my perspective changed over time. I mean, it's kind of hard right now because I don't have an exact situation in mind, but we are very open for the most part.
I would say that, like, we've gotten a lot better at just listening to understand instead of listening to respond. So like I guess a few years ago, like, everybody has their own perceptions of how things are supposed to go or how they view it. But like when people are telling each other how they feel, like that's their opinion. And so I think that was one of the hardest things that one of the biggest hurdles we had to get over. I know, especially for me, because she would be like, well, I feel that you did, when you did this,
and then
like,
he'll go, well, I didn't
and I'll be like,
that
that wasn't my intent. Like, you trying to accuse me of doing something that I didn't do. But she's like, how can you tell me about what's right or wrong about how I feel? So just listening, like, and understanding each other's feelings and the certain actions that we do that cause each other to feel a certain way, and start to understand them and adapt and adjust and just openly communicate. We're just two very humble and blunt people, and we live under the same roof. And I think we both just have the mindset that it doesn't make sense to hide or tiptoe or walk on eggshells about anything. The other thing I would say is, at least with me, is that I try to have these conversations when we're both calm. Because a lot of times when we're initially kind of going back and forth talking about it, tension can be high. And I'm one of the people that don't like to kind of go back and forth when I'm angry, because I truly believe in, like, say when people say like mean things, like, that's how they really feel. I don't like to be like that. So I try to make sure that I'm in a place mentally where I can have appropriate dialogue and things.
But outside of communication, I think being intentional, just like self-care, like being intentional with your partner, like giving each other time. When we eat dinner, it's like, all right, put your phone away. I don't want you scrolling. I'm not scrolling. So let's talk to each other. Let's talk about your day. How are you? How are you feeling? And this is the thing, like, we just start recently. Like, we get so used to being in each other's presence that we forget to ask each other, how are you feeling? Like, we just assume because you smiling and you laugh today's a good day. But honestly, I could have cried in the shower. You don't know. So ask me how I'm feeling. I can tell you about my emotions and how I felt throughout the day. So we really just started asking each other, how are you feeling? Like, that's like an everyday thing now for us. And it's just like, we never used to ask each other that. How selfish. I just assumed you felt this way because I was able to observe your emotions. But honestly, just like with mental illness, you can't see what someone is going through. You can't feel what someone's going through. You can't assume. So it's always important to assess. So that has been the biggest thing for us.
Cool. Thank you. Appreciate you guys being vulnerable, kind of opening up and sharing that information. Got another quick question that popped up. So this one is interesting. I haven't heard you guys mention it, but I just want to see if it's something that you guys have been exposed to. Is coloring considered self-care? I know it seems elementary, like we haven't colored in years, but have you personally colored before? What kind of emotions or thoughts have that brought?
I don't do a lot of coloring on coloring pages, but I do have a box of markers, and I make my affirmations with different color markers, and I draw flowers, I draw hearts on them. And for me, I think just seeing the different colors just kind of helped me with energy. Like they say different colors bring different energies and help, feel certain things, or they attribute like orange to positivity or optimism. The different colors do realize. I don't know. I feel like I'm really young at heart too, though. So coloring has always helped me and made me feel, alive and like a kid and, peaceful at the moment when I am coloring.
Cool. All right. Does anybody have any other questions out there in the crowd? All right. Well, if there's no more questions, I'm going to pass it off to Devin and Jasmine if they want to drop any more final nuggets before I close this out.
If I had to give a top maybe 3 nuggets, it would be that, mental health is all around us and affects us physically and mentally. It appears in many different shapes and forms, depression, suicide, anxiety, PTSD, addiction, substance abuse, bipolar, mania, the list just goes on. And that it's important to have a safety plan, appropriate set of coping skills, and self-care and support, and to be able to appropriately cope with your feelings to kind of stay at a healthy state of mind. So
okay, cool. I really appreciate that. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in. A lot of people signed up, but not everyone always has the discipline or commitment to follow through. So you guys being here means a lot to me, and it means that you care about your mental health. So I want to say thank you for that. So as we continue throughout the rest of this month, we're going to be diving into different topics. Next week, we're going to do a motherhood edition, kind of to play off with Mother's Day. But we're also going to be talking about, the stresses of being a mom and what that can bring. So for those who are thinking about being a mother or just want to hear a mother's perspective or currently are a mother, feel free to stay tuned for next week. Also, I typically close these out with a prayer. So I'm about to get ready and pray, and feel free to exit if that's not for you. Dear Lord God, we just want to thank you for your presence. And we thank you, Lord, for being the creator who cares about us. You put people in our lives. You give us support systems. You give us energy. And we thank you for all those things. So Lord, right now, we know mental health is a real issue. And we know that you are greater than that issue. And Lord, we just ask that you continue to help each and every person on this webinar today with their mental health. I ask, Lord, that you bring them creative solutions and you give them the courage to be truthful and open about all the issues that they may be facing. So Lord, as we continue to just go down this journey, whether it's for finances or for family or through the marriage, whatever the case might be, I just ask that you step with us every step of the way. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Zoe, my niece just ran in here. Well, do you want to say hi and let everyone know why you interrupted us? Say hi.
Hey.
All right, now get out.
All right, nah, cool. But thank you guys. And I'll be sending out an email kind of just recapping some of these nuggets they dropped off. And then if you guys have any additional questions, feel free to reach out to me and I can connect you with Jasmine or Devin. All right.
Thank you guys
so much.